golf has a lot of catastrophe built into it. If you can understand that and go, all you got to do is be just a tiny bit greater than what's obviously going to happen. You don't have to be perfect all day long.
You know, Joe, when you said accept it and move on, the play box, move forward, I really like the saying, like, be where your feet are, right? And so, like, where am I right now? Where are my feet? They're not at the last shot that I just hit. They can't. They're here. They're not also, okay, I can try to save birdie. They're right here in this moment.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf. I'm your host, Ryan Adams, and today's episode is special because today we're talking to not just one, but two of the best minds in junior golf, Joe Hallet and Coach Mo, Maureen Farrell. Joe is the reigning 2024 PGA of America National Teacher of the Year. He's also a PGA Master Professional, consistently ranked in Golf Digest Top 50 and Golf Magazine's Top 100 instructors. For 7 consecutive years, Joe also has been named the top teacher in the state of Tennessee by Golf Digest. He has and currently works with numerous LPGA superstars, including Hall of Famer Inbee and 2023 Solheim captain Stacy Lewis. Coach Mo is an accomplished PGA professional with over 15 years of experience, and she's the director of instruction at Oakwood Country Club in Kansas City, Missouri. She has numerous recognitions by Golf Digest as Best Teacher in State and Best Young Teachers in America. It's not every day that I get to talk to not just one, but two incredible golf minds. Joe, Coach Mo, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us on.
Hopefully you don't get conflicting information between two of us, but
right.
We're about to find out, but you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this because I got a lot of questions, and the fact that I get two amazing golf pros to be kind of answering these questions and to bring their insights, this is a rare treat. So I'm going to start right here, guys. Now, the game seems to be evolving, and everybody's focusing on, distance and speed and driving the ball. Bryson kind of led the way with this a couple of years ago, and it certainly seems like that's all the rage right now. I'm kind of curious. Maybe, Joe, you can start here. What do you think, from a junior golf standpoint and just a golf in general, like what do you think the importance of the driver is, and what can we do to kind of recognize whether or not, how we can get better with driving the ball?
Ryan, I appreciate you going to the guy that started. He's at a point in his career where he's starting to lose distance instead of gaining at some
You're
point.
uniquely positioned. Yeah.
Literally with Bryson DeChambeau and with the advent of the stats that you see on the tour. What I want to do is kind of talk about the distance of the driver. And I'm going to specifically look and say there are some great instructors in this game. And Hank Haney was quoted once as saying, what is the thing on tour? Or what is the thing in college, or what is the thing in junior golf that separates kids one from the rest of the pack? And without even batting an eye, he said swing speed. Swing speed. The kids today that have a swing speed that can hit the ball tremendous distances have a huge advantage. And when I grew up, and Maureen, I'll let you kind of comment on this a little bit too, but when I grew up, there was always the kid that was a little bigger for his age, and he outdrove everybody. And then all of a sudden life passed him because he realized he needed a chip and putt. But now the things that the combination has almost been very good. The PGA golf instructors are better trained than they've ever been. The statistics that are coming out are better than they've ever been. The technology that's here is better than it's ever been. So that while a 14 or 15-year-old kid may not be able to hit it 300 yards, and as a matter of fact, some of them do, literally, they can hit it as far as they can using good form, the proper club, and not swinging too hard. And that distance thing is something that on the parental side, there's a point where you can get a little extreme on it. And we'll probably talk about that on the closings of, oh my gosh, my kid's only hitting at 290 and the guys he's playing against are hitting at 307. If your junior is hitting it good enough to have what we would call a scoring iron in their hand, like an 8-iron, a 9-iron, and a wedge, they're fine. If they have a hybrid or a 4-iron or a 5-iron, then we're going to kind of move up there a little bit. But the way to get distance, and Ryan, my background is interesting because I spend a lot of time on the LPGA tour. The last thing those players want to do is swing harder or swing outside their means. So that's why you see, especially on the LPGA today, you see ladies that are tremendously fit. They train for stability. They train for speed. And then they make sure the club that they have is perfectly suited to give it the right launch angle so they can hit it as far as they can without trying harder. And that is, to me, that's one of the best ways to get distance. And, you know, when Jack Nicklaus grew up, his instructor, Jack Grout, said, Jackie Buck, swing as hard as you can. Let's see how far it'll go, and we'll straighten it out later. And there's some truth to that, but you can do it very intelligently right now. And I might throw it over towards Maureen a little bit because there's some pretty basic things you can do to help your child of any age. And probably while you're helping your kid, you can help your own kid.
Yes.
What can we do, Maureen? Do you have any tips or tricks or any drills or anything that we can learn?
Absolutely. I love talking about this. My background is very heavily into TPI, which is Titleist Performance Institute. So the body swing connection. And, you know, Joe bringing up some like back then and when you did this and you maybe were an athlete, like today we want to be athletes and we want our kids to be multi-sport athletes for as long as they can. And also, you know, since we're talking about swing speed and distance, it's the reality of the game. So we need to be able to hit the ball farther and have, as Joe said, a scoring iron into that. And part of it, which Joe had mentioned, equipment is huge. Technique is great. But within the TPI model, it really trains, again, multi-sport, but then speed. In juniors, we want to develop speed. Speed is, so muscles and bones are growing at different, times and lengths at all different various, ages. And so their model kind of helps us coaches, know when to attack maybe technique over speed or things like that. But at the end of the day, so I have a 5.5-year-old. I am like, get up, grip and rip it. There's not very much technique and just be fun and creative. And that even goes to an elite player. And I'll kind of refer to Steven Yeager, a podcast that I listened to with him on it, has picked up a ton of speed, and distance. And he did exactly what Joe said, sometimes not to, which we need balance. This was a training thing for him. And he said he got up on a par 4 and he would go on a golf course and he would hit 30 balls as hard as he could. Okay. Now, when we're also talking distance, yes, club speed is important, but ball speed out there. And ball speed is the thing that people are chasing. PGA Tour, I don't think, Joe, you can be under 180 ball speed and get out there. I mean, it's crazy numbers out there. So some ways to train that without being, again, swing it hard. I always like to say swing it fast and athletic. And so if I'm trying to develop speed in a player, a few things that you can do, again, not hard, but if we can swing fast and we can work harder earlier, not later. So a good friend of both Joe and I, John Tattersall, has taught me a lot about this. He coaches, he's the speed niche force plate guru. And, we want to hold the club tight. So the whole thing is like, hold it like a baby bird. That's not fact. Those aren't facts. It was a feel of some great players in the past. Well, the reality is feel and real aren't the same. And so if you look at a tour player, their grip strength and their forearm strength is abnormally, like it's so much, stronger than the average, person. And so they don't feel like they're holding it very tight. We need to hold it tight. We're trying to move this club with mass that's down at the bottom. We need to move it through the ball. Now, that doesn't mean we want to hold it in our palm really tight and tense our shoulders and everything else up. But we got to hold that tight in our fingers. So position and strength. From there, start working harder, faster. So you'll also hear, hey, you were too fast on that. It looks like, slow down. So then the amateur golfer or a parent will say, hey, take it back slow. The problem is we take it back too slow and then our brain sends signals, well, you better hurry up because we got to hit this thing. We need some speed to do that. And so then we from the top. And so like what John is taught me and what force plates working with swing catalyst is we got to use the ground. So again, being an athlete, like we're not going to play defense or any other sport without using our feet very efficiently. We're going to use the ground to pull the club back a little faster. So a good tempo is 3-1. So this is going to pull back faster. So into the ball, then we can have kind of this glide effect that it's just going to come in at a smoother rate is what our naked eye sees when we look at really awesome swings in 2D, from our TV. But they're just working a lot harder from the beginning. So I would usually say like, hold on to it a little tighter, start a little faster, really use the ground. And TPI will also say some of the technique that kids need to work on are vertical thrust. So jumping, right? At the ball, you'll see that. I used to do that. I was a basketball player and I had a coach try to take that away. Again, this was back in 2004, try to take that away from me. Well, we know that was actually my way to find power and to jump and to move that golf ball. So vertical thrust, rotary power, wrist and hand speed, those are all things that we can develop in juniors, even if their muscles and bones are growing at different lengths. So
there's so much to
that's something
unpack
I do with mine.
Maureen. Yeah, Joe, I'm just gonna clarify a few things here. So for those that aren't familiar, so the difference between swing speed and ball speed. Swing speed is how fast you're swinging the club, but ball speed is how fast the ball's coming off your club head. And a big part of that is hitting in the center of the face. Is that correct?
Centerness of contact, yes. But going back to equipment, newer equipment, right? So that's why getting your juniors in better equipment. Yeah, so newer equipment, for example, Joe and I just both received our new Titleist GT drivers, and I'll hit one off center. And what we're finding is this new material, the off center hits ball speeds aren't dropping as much. And so I'm like, holy smokes, that was off the toe and it still went. Like, whoa. So again, don't just chop down an old club from 30 years ago to give to your junior. That club is working against them, not for them. So we want everything to be working for our kiddos, not against them. So it's the length of the club. Like you wouldn't stand up if we were all standing next to each other. And this happens a lot with women and juniors. And you put a driver next to your chest for the photo on the first tee. And our drivers hit us right below the chest. Well, juniors, it's like hitting them up here. Well, that's too long. Like I can't swing that. How do I create speed with something that's long? So again, let's make sense about it. Let's have things work for us and not against us.
Right. I'm going to add in, and it's Maureen, as you just said, we both took out our new Titleist drivers, and my director of golf and I have had a little challenge the past few years because he's also on the Titleist staff, and we've left the shrink wrap on the head of the driver to see how many holes we can play before it actually cracks. Now, remind you, the shrink wrap is probably about 1/1,000,000 of a centimeter thick. 6 rounds and 2 holes it took me to crack through that thing the last time. And I'm like, okay, my swing speed obviously can't be nearly what it needs to be if I can't even crack a tiny little piece of saran wrap. But one thing I do want to kind of point out, and Maureen talked about it, Titleist and TPI, they found out so many by doing all these studies. And Maureen, please correct me if I'm off on this, I may be, but there are these windows or pockets that juniors can train for speed. And to the best of my knowledge, it was kind of somewhere in the 7 to 9 area. And then there was a 15 to 17 area. And they think there may be something around the 24 to 26 area. I hope they're studying the over 50 area because I'm really concerned about that area right now. But if you can specifically, when your child is in those windows, get them to do anything they can do fast. Get them to throw a ball, get them to jump, get them to run. Anything they can do fast will absolutely exponentially, they'll pay off dividends on golf.
Yeah, I have a TPI physical therapist and performance coach that I work with, and we'll even have kids take a ball and then throw a ball down as hard as they can from the top of the swing. Throw it down hard. Or how do I now skip a rock, but it's a ball throwing it hard down at this place here. And again, it's just developing that rotary and just speed, quick hands, quick everything. Joe and I, we've talked before. You don't need a fancy speed stick. They're great, but if you don't have one, flip a club upside down, hold it by the club head side of it, and swing it as fast as you can. Now then flip and hold 2 clubs in your hand, just like, baseball. You see guys warming up with 2 dots. Now hold 2 clubs in your hand and try to swing that, right? So we're just trying to train as fast as we can with heavy and really, again, get fast, because we can kind of control that in these different pockets of development.
Fantastic advice, Joe. I just wanted to make sure that I heard that correct. So, because that was actually one of my questions. So you're saying that the first window is between 7 to 9, and then the second window is when as a teenager?
Maureen, when is that?
I have it. I had it pulled up earlier. There is a chart on the My TPI website for parents to look at, like
And obviously,
much.
this is a recommendation. Every kid is developing at earlier or later as well. But in general, it seems like there's a couple of windows to kind of focus more on the speed.
Yeah, the TPI model is there's 4 to 7, 8 to 10, 11 to 14, and 15 to 18. And in there, it talks about, we want that foundation of functional stability, speed. Then as they get a little older, we're going to add functional strength and skills. Then the next one, we're going to add speed 2, maybe 3D integration, what's happening there. Stamina, strength. So now are we going to start lifting? And then we get into power. So they have, like, I'm just looking at the chart right now. It's on the website. And so parents can look at that. If again, I grew up in a small town of 7,000 people in Nebraska. I didn't have a golf pro or person like really close to me. So parents, like, there's so much valuable information. And I would say, Joe, you would probably agree that TPI is really the gold standard when it comes to the body and how it moves. So it's, again, the body swing connection, and it's a just gold mine of resources that if you're like me listening as a parent in a small town or somewhere where you don't have somebody available, you can do so much for your kiddo just by going to that website. And there's drills, exercises, when to train, what to train, based on even the equipment you have.
Fantastic. Maureen, you talked about grip strength with the driver, and I think what you're referring to is the whole Ben Hogan, hold it like a baby bird, and that seems to be what a lot of us were taught is just like, grip pressure is very, very important. Now, you said kind of like hold it a lot tighter to really, be able to feel connected to that club. How does that, let's just say a driver grip pressure is a 10 out of 10. Not saying it's the hardest you can grip, but let's just say that's 10 out of 10. How does the grip pressure change, or does it change when I start moving into the 3-wood, 5-iron, 7-iron, and then all the way down to wedges?
Absolutely. So Joe and I might disagree on this, and I don't know, but again,
controversy. I love it.
This is something that our buddy Tattersall explained to me. So it's a little bit more measured. It's the same. Like, even when I have a putter in my hand and I'm holding it again in the fingers. Now, let me caveat that with, like, we want a good grip to match up with things that are happening, right? So our position of our hands and fingers need to be good. Within that, then we want that pressure to be very firm with all clubs, including putter. We don't want the end. So center of mass of any golf club is down at the end, and we're trying to move center of mass in some way to the ground, and the ground has barriers to it. There's hills, there's rough, there's all these variables. We don't want that club head moving all over the place on us, and it's going to move all over the place on us if we're not holding it firm. So all clubs, we wanted a little firm with a good position in our fingers. And if you look, like here I have like calluses on my fingers. We don't want blisters, but calluses of like holding it good. Here's the other thing. If you look at, so Kansas City is where I'm located, and Mr. Watson, Tom Watson, is a friend of mine. I sit on one of his boards, and for junior golf initiative. And even Tom would say, because again, Tom has his name on his bag, and he's got a lot of majors to go with that, and PGA Tour wins. So we listen to what they say, right? So, like, I think it was Sam Snead who originally said, hold it like a baby bird. And so we got to listen to that. But the reality is again, that's his feel. And I've met Tom, and I've shaken his hand and given him a hug, but his forearms are like Popeye. Like, again, they're so strong. So again, I think that that's just a common misconception, and we have to listen to the best in the world because they are the best in the world for a reason. But as coaches, we can actually measure things. We can understand how it works. So to answer your question, all clubs, firm pressure with a correct grip.
That's
Joe, what do you think?
100% correct. And I believe our friend John Tattersall said, I wouldn't hold it like a baby bird. I'd hold it like a rabid chicken that you don't want to get loosed in a
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're
Love
going
that.
to, and I said, we're going to a client yesterday, I go, we're going to wring this bird's neck right now. We're going to crank down on it. Yep. Yeah.
One of the greatest, and this is kind of a fun thing, Ryan, not only for you, but, and being a Canadian as a player, but one of the greatest ball strikers in history was a gentleman named Mo Norman. And for your listeners and viewers of the podcast, research Mo Norman. And Mo said, how hard do I hold it? I'm trying to squeeze blood out of the grip. I got to make sure I have control of it. So, boy, if you're going to err on any side, and let's be real and let's be realistic, is there any 12, 13, or 14-year-old kid that's going to go, I'm going to go about 65% on this one? No, they're not. They're going to go 110. So hold on to that sucker as good as you can.
Absolutely.
Love that. Maureen, you also talked about a 3-to-1 tempo. Is that literally backswing is like 1, 2, 3, 1? Am I hearing that correct?
Yes. And there's this amazing app. It's a pure tempo counter app. And again, this was developed by John Novosel Jr. and his father, local Kansas City people as well. And they've, since I think 1999 or 2000, started studying tempo on the tour. And so again, this is measured, not just the eye test. And there's different variances of 3-to-1, right? So 30-10 would be one of them, the tempos. And again, you'll hear it if you download, it's a free app. And then it can go as much as 18-6 would be the fastest. So Bryson is an 18-6 tempo, but 18 divided by 6 is still 3, right? So we're still in that 3-to-1. So yeah, that's where we're saying we're working harder. We want to like pull a sledgehammer up off the ground. We're not going to like slowly take it back and then whip that sledgehammer. We're going to pull it back a little faster. And then that transition is what gets smoother. So if you're riding a bike, I'm assuming you've ridden a bike.
It's a fair assumption.
Did you start by having your hands off the handlebars?
Definitely
No,
not.
you start with it on to get some speed. Once you got speed, you can take your hands off the handlebar to get control.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're going to start with some speed so we can get some control into the ball.
That's a great analogy. I never thought of it like that, but I think it would be the centrifugal force that just kind of, once you have that speed, you can just kind of harness it. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes. And Joe, you're probably laughing because I think that John uses like this word that associates with clocks, and it's how things are, and I can never remember what he says. And so, yes, there's all this, yes, that comes, or a harmonic oscillator, I think is what he talks about, some things like that. And so again, it's there. So it's not just like a theory. It's proven. Now, again, we don't want you going out there like Bryson's not always swinging at 100%, right? He has an 80%, an 85, and then he can step on one at 100, right? But we're saying when training, I think that goes to something I brought up with all these other topics we brought up, but in training, the one thing I would say is to have a growth mindset for your kiddos, and even you as a golfer, right? And so allow yourself to be silly, allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to hit bad shots and not be outcome oriented. So, I have a drill ball, right? And a drill ball, the outcome doesn't matter. So on these, we're just going to grip and rip it and see how fast we can go. We don't really care about the outcome. Crazy thing is you'll see the outcome once you allow that freedom will actually get better. We're going to be process oriented for a little bit, not outcome. Then we can switch and say, okay, this is our gamer ball. This is a performance ball. And now we're going to go through our routine. We're going to do the things that we want to do to, like we would on the golf course, right? And so that's where if we have that growth mindset and we're able to get out of our comfort zone and go, Joe, you'd appreciate this. We have a lot of mutual buddies, Jason Bale, he says, we're going to go explore. A lesson is guided discovery, and range sessions are exploration activities, right? So if we go explore and we're not trying to practice and be perfect, then we now have this freedom to go be curious. And I would say to juniors, go be curious. Like, I wonder what if I tried this? What if I did this? What if I was a little silly and and gave this a go. Like that's where we can really see differences in juniors instead of like, okay, I'm supposed to go hit my 7-iron this many times and I'm supposed to do this. Like we want kids to go out there and explore and have creativity and that growth mindset, even when it's grip pressure or timing of the swing.
See what works for you. No, wonderful. Okay, we've been talking about driving a lot here, and there's no doubt that in the modern game, driving is, one, it's a lot of fun, and it's something that a lot of kids and just golfers in general like to focus on. But I think it's been universally true since the beginning of time that putting is the most important part of golf. Joe, how do we get better? How important it is? What can we do? Like, what makes a difference when it comes to putting?
Oh, well, you can always tell a bad putter by going over to their house and then in their garage, they have lined up against the wall. Well, that was the mallet. That worked for about 2 weeks. And then that was the blade putter. That one, that guy stood around for a while. And then he failed me at the worst opportunity. It's not necessarily the equipment, but there are two elements that are really important in putting: speed and aim. And those are your two. And in today's day and age, there are two things that are out there. And I want to kind of take just those two and then add something onto it at the end. But speed, some of the greatest putters in history always commented on how important it is to have good speed. Dave Stockton is he's a great PGA professional. He won the PGA championship. He had a great quote once, and he said, "Speed is king." And he said, think about it. When is the last time you missed a putt 4 feet left or 4 feet right? And you ask anybody that question, they go, I did that on 7. And they go, okay, when's the last time you missed it 4 feet short or 4 feet long? You go, I did it on 9, I did it on 12, 13, 14, 16. So the minute you get the speed dialed in, you're going to become a better putter. And there are lots of ladder drills, and I know Maureen will have some of those, and I'll toss that over to her. But if you'll concentrate on speed first, you will get rid of as my mentor used to say, no dumb 3-putt. Not when you're 15 feet away, okay? Don't knock it another 10 feet past the hole. Get it there close. So that's one thing that improves putting. The second thing is understanding how to read the greens. And there are so many different ways right now to learn how to read greens. And the old adage of, it's kind of funny. I always share the story. I caddied for a very talented young lady when I was a little bit younger, and her name was Inbee Park. And who, as a 16-year-old, she once said, I'd like to play this game till I'm about 30 and maybe start a family and get into the Hall of Fame. And I'll be darned. All you got to do, folks, is set a goal, because it actually works if you run that out there.
We'll figure.
But literally back then at the Dinah Shore out at Rancho Mirage, I'm looking at the yardage book and I see the compass, and that's important, kind of, the north, south, east, west, to know, okay, our winds are coming from the west today. And I asked another caddy and I said, what's this other arrow just randomly points somewhere? And he said, that's Indio. And I go, oh, is it the Indio effect? And he kind of chuckled and he goes, yeah. And I said, well, what is the Indio effect? He goes, well, everything breaks towards Indio. I said, what is Indio? He said, it's a town 28 miles away from here. I thought, a town 28 miles away, when my ball is 8 feet from the hole, is not going to make a difference on what's going on that green. What you have now is a lot of different ways to read greens, and I've been very privileged and very humbled to learn a ton from a guy named Mark Sweeney and Aim Point. And what Aim Point effectively is doing is saying, my ball is here, the cup is there. What is the worst thing between my ball and the hole? And if I can figure that out and play for it, I'm going to really have a good chance of making it. So physically learning how to read the greens and not hearing from your buddies, everything breaks towards the lake on 9. Well, we're on 17 and it's on the other end of the property. So even if you don't get into reading the greens or doing that, and I would encourage that at a very, very young age. I really would. Get your speed under control, learn how to read greens. At the very worst, pay attention to what's going on between your ball and the hole. And those tour guys do that. If they don't have a system, you'll always see they're kind of putting their hands around their hat and they're blocking out everything, just trying to see what's between my ball and the cup. Is there any little raise in the green? That is your two biggest starts. And the next thing I would practice vehemently is putts outside 30 feet. It is very important to practice those 3-footers. And yes, I'm sure everyone has to make 10 in a row. But on both tours, if you combine the LPGA and the PGA, these are the best players in the world. And from 31 feet out, if they two-putt, they gain something like 0.88 or 0.89 of a stroke on the field. And 30 feet is a lot closer than you think it is. It is not. You ask someone what 30 feet is, and they go, is it that hole over there? And I'm like, that's about 110 yards away. And 30 feet is really close. And especially when you're a junior, you're not knocking the ball close to the hole all the time. And by the way, if you were to make one of those 31 foot or greater putts, you gain like 1.27 strokes on the field. So you're going to catch up a lot more two putting. You're going to lap the field if you happen to make one of those, and you still practice your 3-footers. But the reality is you're going to have a lot of putts that are outside 30 feet. So really practice those. Get your speed down, and then kind of learn how to read the green.
Fantastic. Maureen, how do we get better at putting?
Yeah. So, I always tell any golfer, and Joe, please chime in here. But when I was young learning, somebody said, well, putting, yeah, it's fine. Like I can get it. I need to learn how to hit the ball. And now as a coach, I'm like, okay, but let's break this down on a par 5, a 4, and a par 3. They all account for how many putts too. So a green in regulation, right? So, or on a par 5, fairway, green in tee to fairway, right? Another shot into the fairway and then onto the green and 2 putts, right? Par 4, hit one in the fairway, onto the green, 2 putts. So the game of golf is saying right out of the gate, like, and there's ways to get the ball in the hole and not putt, right? Like a chip in and stuff, but it's saying like this part is really important. And we're saying it's as important as a 250-yard drive that we're still going to give you 2 putts when you're on the screen, right? And so like that should hopefully maybe shift the mindset of the 12-year-old who's like, oh, whatever, I don't want to do this, to go get better. And so, some things I always like to look at some stats, and I pulled some up earlier. Most of us think we should make an 8-footer, right? And a lot of juniors think we make an 8-footer. These are a couple of years ago, but I'm sure it hasn't changed much. But on PGA Tour, 52.86 is the percentage of makes from 8 feet, right? And from 11 to 15%, it's 30.1% is what are made. So yes, like we want to get good at our short putts, and everyone knows how to work on 3, 5, 4, 5 and foot putts. There's a bunch of drills. But to Joe's point, we got to be able to lag it up there, right, to get it into that area. And we don't want to be hitting putts and having them 15 foot short, because what's our make percentage from 15 feet, right? From 35 feet away, if we hit the opposite side of the green, because we're not going to go for a flag because that's not safe to go for that pin. So we're going to go over here. But now we have this long putt that we got to lag up there. So drills like, I'll get your putter's about 3 feet or 36 anywhere. So you have a measuring aid. You don't need all these fancy things. And I make a 4-foot box with tees or ball markers on the green. And then I'll step off 10, then 15, then 20, 30, 35, and 40 feet. And I put little ball markers or tees at all those. And I have 5 balls, 3 or 5 balls, however many you want. And I'll have them hit. Like, you got to get into this grid, into this 4-foot box. And if you miss one, you're starting over again, and you got to do this over again, and you get to work your way back. You get to earn your way back to the next spot. So that's something very simple, and you don't need a cup. Like a lot of times we don't want to go to a cup. We just want to get like, what is this pace or tempo, or how do we just go to this area instead of being so focused on it going into the hole? And then the other one would be leapfrog. Again, this one doesn't need a hole, because a lot of times with putting greens, they're really busy, especially if you're not at a private club and you're at a municipal golf course. They're really busy. So you don't even need to take a cup. You can just go over to the side and leapfrog. So I'm going to put, a tee. Well, here's where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to walk off about, again, from 10 to 15 feet. And then it depends. Some people are different. Every 12 to 18, maybe 24 inches, I'm putting another tee for 5 or 6 or 8, and you're just going to stand there and putt, and you got to make it to the first one, and then the next one, and the next one, and so you're just leapfrogging. And if you miss one and you got one too far, now you got to start again. So now we're just working on speed control. We're going to play leapfrog in between the tees. with the ball. And you could do that for hours and just really get good and do some uphill, then switch and do some downhill. And again, those are just easy things that you can do that you don't need a hole. We're not so, again, outcome focused on getting it into this little round hole and hearing it click. We just want players, juniors or adults to work on that speed control.
It is my absolute biggest pet peeve is like when you have a putt for birdie and somehow you walk out with a bogey. And for me, it happens way too often. But going from birdie to bogey, I can't think of anything more frustrating in golf where you actually have a chance and you 3-putt and great drills. Joe, I think you wanted to add something?
Well, I was going to say the funniest part, if you kind of run the circle of life, and I guarantee you, when Coach Mo goes out there and puts those tees in a square, the juniors he's working with goes, I hate this drill. Why do we have to do this? And about 8 years from now, when that player's on tour, they're going to get interviewed by somebody and they go, how'd you become such a good putter? Oh, I had the coolest drill that Coach Mo used to make me do, but that's not the way they looked at it.
Yeah.
And you got to sell the sizzle with that somehow to kind of go, and exactly as Mo's saying, put these things in. Okay, I know you want to practice your 6-footers, but how many times did you hit it within 6 feet on a regulation approach? And all of a sudden they go, oh, okay. And then when they start beating their friends, the minute you see that kid set that drill up themselves, that trust me, Maureen, it's the same way. The minute you see that kid set up that drill, you're like, yes. That's the greatest thing as a coach. It really is.
So, but how boring so maybe I'm different. We want our juniors to fall in love with the process of practicing, right? Of exploring. Whether it's driving range, the wedge game, or putting. And so if you can have drills, and there's so much content out there for different drills. I gave 2 examples, but there's hundreds of them. And so now if you have your junior armed with activities or games, like I don't even call them drills, I call them games. We're going to go play this game. I even tell my adults, okay, let's go play this game and you try to beat me here, right? And they don't even realize what work they're putting in work because we're playing a game, and it makes that putting practice that's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go do the 3-6-9 ladder drill, and then I'm bored, and then I'm going to hit 2 lag putts, and then I want to go do something else, right? So if you have 3 games that you're going to do really well and you're going to get really good at them, now you have that junior like involved and kind of wanting to go do that. And we want them to fall in love with the process of it. Like, I think it's awesome to go out and I just kind of get a zone out. Joe, I don't know about you, but how do you feel with headphones, earbuds, when putting?
I don't like it because I just think that you should be learning to be able to just block everything out. If you're not allowed to be wearing them when you're playing, that's my thought. But
so some practice I think is fine. I just like to hear. So in any practice, I need to hear the club and ball connect, even putting. But the kids have them in their ears all the time. I like music and it's good, but I always just tell juniors, so again, this is for juniors, like you get 1 in practice and that's fine. But we're not going to have 2 because you need to now start to hear the sound. And so you now know, oh, that sounded different. Where did I maybe hit it on the face? And now they're actually getting feedback. So a big thing for me is you can have it, just so you get to have 1 in.
do we have, I think we got 2 drills for speed control, which is fantastic. What's your guys' favorite drill for, I guess, aim, either aim point
Joe.
or just kind of, all right, Joe, how do we dial in our actual aim?
So if I had to nail it to just like one simple statement, you better play way more break than you think. You can't trust your eyes. Your eyes never really see what's going on. With that being said, the generation before me that would play, you would see a lot of them look at the putt from behind the ball. You would also see them go to the other side of the hole. And I would encourage juniors and players of all kinds that that's something you should probably do on the practice green and find a putt that you know has some break in it, hit the putt, and if it ends up low of the hole, then go look at that same putt from the other side and you go, oh my gosh, I can see it so much clearer from here. Some players, with the way they look at putts, will see the putt great from behind the ball. I would say at least half of those players, when you take them to the other side of the hole, they go, oh my gosh, I would have never seen that looking face on.
Mm-hmm.
Some other players will go between the hole and the ball, and they'll look from down below and go, man, that's really uphill from here. How do you read putts? Take a look at it from both sides of the hole. And I'm making a clarification here. If at all possible, don't do that when you're playing. Pick the side that you're going to read the putt from, because you're going to get conflicting answers. And then you're going to walk back and you go, I don't know what to do. I won't play enough break and I'll hit it hard. And then you have your 15-footer coming back by accident. But what I would tell you to do is go to the putting green and find a putt that you can clearly look and go. And in a fun way, like literally go out and go, oh, come on, get your buddy and go, we got to hit this putt. This is going to be insane. Look at one that has a lot of break and start to realize how much break really looks like. And then go to another one and go, let's find one that's not that bad. And then see how much that break looks like. And again, pick your side of the hole.
Or even roll the ball in case they don't hit, like their face isn't always coming through. Just say, okay, I don't know. Like, how do I just roll it? Because usually it's going to be straighter. And then you can see where it starts to go as just like I have no idea. So just roll a ball to the hole and kind of see what it might do there. If it's very basic.
It's awesome.
So
awesome
if I'm rolling the ball to the hole, am I rolling it right at the hole, seeing how it breaks, and then basically adding that to the other side of it? Or are you suggesting kind of just roll the ball, pretending like the break to kind of just get an idea of what the ball is going to do?
You know what? Every kid looks for a shortcut. Do exactly what you just said. Roll the ball towards the hole and you go, wow, I missed by 2.5 feet. And then put a tee out 2.5 feet to the side and go, look at that. Otherwise, you're going to be over there guessing, moving it back and forth and back and forth. And Ryan, there's not a better way to do it than to go, I'm going to putt it or roll it straight at the hole and see how much it breaks. And the minute you get that, you go, clearly it has to happen. Boom, you move it over there and then the putt goes in. And aim point is so prevalent these days. It's usually something that you can peek at their website and it'll kind of give you the premise of it, but understand where you read the break great if you're not going to do that. And secondly, a good way to practice it is, I would have never seen that. Roll a ball at the hole and sometimes a putt that looks flat, you go. And all of a sudden it's like Jason would say, it's the time to explore. It's time to get out here and go, how'd that happen? I didn't put spin on it like a ping pong. It rolled straight.
Ryan, just to clarify, Joe, I don't know if you said so. Aim point, if listeners aren't sure what it is, have you seen a player walk halfway up their putt between the ball and the hole, and with their feet on either side, and they're trying to feel the slope, the break? That's totally, essentially kind of aim point in a little bit of a nutshell. That's what they're doing. Is aim point. Yep.
So I've actually, so crystal ball, do you guys think that aim point, or at least some hybrid of it, is going to become the norm on the tour in the next 10, 20 years?
Absolutely. And the reason I can say that is if players aren't using it right now, then their caddies are using it. And it's become one where the results, Maureen, you said too, where in a way we need to be results oriented. But when you look at the amount of money that all of a sudden when a Lydia Ko learned this, or an Adam Scott learned this, or does Dustin Johnson do it?
No, he does it too. Yeah, Max
look at Max Homa.
Yeah.
And you look at Dustin Johnson and go, well, he doesn't use aim point. No, but his caddy knows it, and his caddy looks at him and goes, DJ, hit it towards the guy in the blue pants. Boom. And they're done. It's in there right now, and it's going to become more the norm, but it's not as complicated as people think. And this is not trying to go, hey, you need to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, I played at Oakmont a couple of years ago, and my caddy who I had for both days, he actually caddied when the LPGA had their open there. And so, and he knows the greens like the back of his hand, but he used that because he would be like, okay, you're going to putt the ball here and it's going to die here. Like, here's your aim and here's the hole. And I'm like, but wait, the cup's over here, and that's where, I really started to be like, whoa. So to Joe's point, like the caddies that are doing this out there, they're doing it. And that's how they know the green so well. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right. Okay. And when that first happens, you look at your caddy and go, he's been in the sauce a little today. They know it.
They know
I believe it. So the game is definitely evolving, where we're getting a lot more systems. We're getting a lot more technology, a lot more numbers and data that's being thrown at us. Are we, Coach Mo, maybe I'll throw it to you. Are we becoming too reliant on things like TrackMan and the technology, or is this something that we should be 100% focused on? Is there a fine balance to strike here?
Right. So, oh my gosh, we could have a whole nother podcast just talking about this. So I think the key word you said there is balance.
Mm.
And, you know, you look at somebody like Ludwig Auberg, I think I pronounced that right,
Mhm.
who he learned in a simulator on a launch monitor, right? And that's where you have a lot of people that are learning golf, juniors that are learning how to play in a simulator. Um, and so I think we're going to see that evolve in time, and we're going to have more players that get that, because to some of our peers' points, that they're like, data is data and it's measured and it's fact, and it doesn't lie. Okay. I tend to be a little bit more on the other side of it. Like, the ball is our barometer, right? The ball's telling us as coaches what's happening, and can tell the player. So you're not so reliant upon, so many times coaches that I see, or even players, like, they hit a ball and then they look at the screen. I'm like, whoa, whoa, like, let's see what happened. Let's take that in, like cause and effect. And now let's look to validate or confirm, right? And I think that that's something. So again, balance. Yeah, I think we need to know our numbers, and I think we need to know spin and launch and all that. So we know what window the ball's coming out of, and we know how much spin we're going to get with wedges and, on a green. And so, yeah, it's great. It's such a cool thing to have. But the launch monitors can't go, the orange box or the quad or whatever you have. They're not playing the game. They're just giving you some information. So a lot of balance. I have a really awesome performance center here at Oakwood Country Club, brand new, state of the art, have all the gadgets. But we start here, and then after, I'm like, okay, so let's look at the forces. Let's look here at the numbers, and then we're out, and we go right outside to the grass, and we're trying to pick different targets, and do things like that, because that's more of what happens in real life, right? And I go back to, there's so many times, Joe, you're probably the same. But even with my better players, even I just had a +2 in here the other day. They're like, okay, great. And I was like, hey, will you just go outside? I always do this. Always. Can you set up to this ball and to go to that target? Like, okay, you're not going to hit it. Just go through your pre-shot routine. Like, okay, great. Now come off this one. Now can you go to that target? And now can you go to that target? And 90% of the time, something's off with setup. Aim, maybe club face is right, but feet are a little off. And then ball position starts to creep. If you're just on a launch monitor hitting straight shots all the time, you have no idea that you actually don't have a bad swing fault. You have a virus that's been downloaded incorrectly, because you're set up to the golf ball incorrectly. And so your feet are this way, your target's here, and now you're doing something to move the ball because you're just set up to it wrong. And the orange box doesn't know that, because you're always hitting on a straight line with your feet straight into a screen, or just, and so there's so many things that can't be done with that, right? We can't take into effect aim and alignment and ball position and all those things. So I don't know. I think balance is huge.
Joe, what's your
That
take on this?
I mean, we do have the greatest time to teach golf, because, those devices do tell it. I mean, I would tell you, Maureen's eye is fantastic at spotting stuff in a golf swing. And I would tell you that after all the years I've done it, I think I can look at things in a golf swing. And every once in a while you go, I put $100 down that ball was not going to go right. And you see, and all the things that you hear, and then all of a sudden you put that down and you go, okay, I couldn't see that with my eye. I could not see that happening. But the formula is what Maureen said. It's a balance. And the balance, especially for so many kids today. And I mean, there's launch monitors that are really affordable. They're in I
Really?
think it's Repsodo, and you've got SkyTrack and Foresight, Flightscope, and TrackMan, and you can go even beyond that. But
Garmin, Bushnell, like, they all have a $1,500 price point launch monitor right now.
And your goals, what you see the better players doing, we started this discussion with drivers. They're wanting to make sure that their driver, like you talked about the launch window, Maureen, and then they really want to look at their wedges and make sure that they can control the distance that they hit those wedges. Those are the variables that you're learning to control. And now you have to be able to walk out to the course and go, oh, my target's not straight ahead. It's over on the right side of the fairway. And as much as you can think to yourself, I'm going to use the data to improve a skill that I'm struggling on. And then, as a friend of ours, James Seekman, says, take that new skill and go adapt it everywhere you can. Put the ball in the rough, put the ball in the fairway bunker, put the ball in the divot, put it on a nice lie, put it on an uphill lie, put it on a downhill lie. So once you get those things, because literally when you get out on the course, those are the things that happen. And it can go, Grant Waite is an amazing teacher, an amazing individual. And to the standpoint of, he is one of the best with TrackMan. He won on tour, for Pete's sake. And he's helped so many ladies on the LPGA. And at one point this year, he literally, so many of these launch monitors have what they call a combine or a test, where it'll make you hit all these different shots. And he's like, he goes, I paid her caddy to take 2 weeks off because she nails her numbers are awesome. Every time she does the test, she's 96% or higher. And I got to find out what's going on the golf course that's not transporting from that practice tee to there. And all of a sudden, then you get, okay, now I see the data. Now I know at some point you were worried that, your hat wasn't fitting right today or whatever. And not making fun, but those are disturbances where, at the players at the top level, they go, oh, I can worry about my hat later on. Let's go through our setup and our alignment and the things that literally happen before you hit that golf ball. And if you can make the right balance, train your technique for something you need help with, then go adapt it. Take that shot, even if it's a flop shot or a stinger or whatever you want to call it, take it everywhere in a course. And you go, okay, well, it works here, here, and here. And those 4 places, which is places I would have tried to hit it, never worked. And now you can go to the course a lot stronger.
There seems to be no substitution for actually on-course play because, like you alluded to, the lies, conditions, wind, soft turf, hard. I mean, like all of these things play into it that when you're just on a simulator, you don't quite get. Now, granted, if you're in a country where, even in Canada for certain times, 6 months out of the year, you're not able to hit balls outside. So that's when you're grateful
and that's
for
when you go
the
train.
simulators.
Yeah. And that's when you go train like the technique and you put in the reps and you're like, now I have it. So now you can trust the motion and your numbers and you have that. So then when it is nicer weather or you are on the first tee or whatever, now you can trust the prep and work you've put in to go apply it.
Maureen, Ryan strikes me as the kind that during the winter, he might go out with one of those Home Depot buckets, fill it up with snow, and just sprinkle it on the AstroTurf in front of the simulator to give him a lifelike capability.
Right?
100%, right?
Right? No, that's so good. So the thing that I tell every golfer but juniors, like, we're not hitting straight shots all the time. And when we're on the golf course, so again, going back to, and I think this kind of fits into one of our other talking points, but, so on-course strategy, wedges, approaches, like what's the lie? And there's a lot of juniors that they just want to like hit the shot. They might go through a pre-shot routine, but part of that's not taking account for, this is a fly or lie. Out of the rough, when the ball hits the green, it's going to jump off the face and the green, and it's not going to get the spin that it's normally having.
How would you define a fly or lie? Like, because you hear that all the time on TV, but like
rough,
for somebody that doesn't know, like what's a fly or lie?
So rough, the ball is going to fly, right? It's going to come off a little hotter because it's not going to get as much like maybe friction, if you will, where it does on the fairway. And then, so then when it hits the green, it's going to hit and release more than if you had the exact same shot off fairway versus that a rough. The rough one is going to fly, right? So that's what they're referring to, or down grain. So if it's down grain out of the rough, that ball is going to like jump out of there instead of if it's rough is sitting and your ball's in here, that's not going to jump off and fly out of there. Would that make Joe, do you have something to add?
Yeah, you have a golf pro without a golf ball in front of him right now. So I've got my little iPod case, but sometimes the rough, the ball sits on top of it. And then sometimes it's kind of half of the ball is in there, but it's the one when the ball is really sitting way down in there and your club's coming in this way. Man, when you got all that grass between your ball and the club, it is literally, that ball is gonna, it's great because it takes off and you go, never hit a 7-iron like that. It's still in the air, isn't it? And then you go, nothing good where that ball's going, but yes, that is a fly or lie, or if it's going down grain with the grass.
So for those listeners that are just listening and not watching, Joe basically is showing that the ball's completely surrounded and covered by rough. And so when you're hitting, the actual club is really not making contact with the ball. It's making contact with the grass and it's shooting out. So you're not getting the benefit, I guess, of all the grooves and the technology of the clubs.
So
Is
you're
that
saying
fair?
rough is a barrier to the ball. Rough is a barrier to the ball. So what is the rough? It's a barrier. So how's it now going to react? So we got our lie. And then I always say we're going to have the we have our lie. Where do we want to land the ball? And then where do we want to leave the ball? So we're now talking about angles off of tee boxes. We're talking about, looking at a hole and like, what is the golf course architecture? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to tempt us with? What are we trying to do? So do I have the ability? Should I be safe here on this shot? Should I be more aggressive, on one shot? Are the greens really fast? So there's all these different variables that a lot of golfers, regardless of skill level, just don't take into account. And when we're out on the golf course, we're not playing a golf swing and we're not trying to play numbers on the orange box anymore. We're trying to play the game of golf, and we need a high golf IQ. And I think Joe and I, that would be the thing as juniors are developing, is I'm really trying to focus on bringing their golf IQ up, not their launch monitor data up all the time, right? So, I had a kid, okay, so what's your thought here? Well, I'm going to tee it up. I always hit a little right. So I'm going to tee it up over on the left side of the tee box. But what do you mean? Well, because I just try to get this far as much as I can because I just don't want to be right. So these 6 extra feet over here are going to help me out. No. We're going to set it up on the right side of the tee box. We're going to aim more left, which then visually opens up the entire right side of the fairway. Oh, I never thought about it that way, right? And so there's just different things that, you can, as a parent, if you are a player, like talk to your junior. They're not too young to hear about this. I mean, obviously I'm not talking to my 5-year-old about it. But, if you have a player that's pretty competitive and out there playing like 8, 9 years old, they're going to understand that. They're talking about geometry and triangles and all that out in school. Like, talk to them about what is the angle? How far is it to carry the bunker or the false front? How far is it to the back? Not just what is it to the flag. Now we're actually going to be playing the game of golf, not just hitting straight shots to the pin every time.
If you play the way Maureen's talking about, you won't have to look at your junior and go, if you take that route, son, you're going to have to use that new math I've heard so much about to add up your score on this hole.
Yeah,
Right.
get ChatGPT to help out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Attitude and the mental side of the game. We haven't talked too much about that. What's your guys' take? Maybe Maureen or actually Joe, why don't you start here? Talk to me a little bit about attitude and how important it is on the course and how we can foster a better or more positive attitude in our juniors.
It's, I watched something, and I think Maureen probably watched this, or she might have been nice enough to send it to me. But golf, Dr. Gary Wyron, who kind of wrote the basically the teaching manual for the PGA, one of his first sentences is golf is a game, and by definition, a game is supposed to be something that brings enjoyment and fun. And an attitude of positivity out there is required, and it's required at the highest levels. And if you expect as a junior to progress and then start to be able to kind of reach goals, that positive attitude is huge. Within golf, there is probably as Maureen would say, the gold standard is Pia and Lynn with Vision 54. And they started this out years ago, and Vision 54 was, for those of you that they were Anika's coaches. And literally the premise was, if you're a good golfer and maybe you're a single digit handicap and you played the same course all your life, you probably have birdied every hole on that golf course at one time or another. And there's no reason you can't birdie them all on the same day. And it's about opening up possibilities. And the easiest way that I can share with you is 2 things. One is something they've always talked about. There's a think box and a play box. And when you stand up and you look behind the ball at your target and you're going, I'm 153 yards. The pin's on the left, but there's a bunker over there. I'm going to aim to the right side of the green, and I'm going to put my 95% swing on it. That is your think box. You're going back there. You're taking all the variables. You're even making your practice swing, and you go, okay, I'm going to use that narrow stance that Coach Mo told me about. The minute you step up to that ball, you're in your play box. And that's where, like Maureen was saying about her student, that is where you got to go on autopilot. And you got to go, you know what I do? I put the club behind the ball. I step in with my left foot. I step in with my right foot. I adjust my stance. I look at the target and I go. You are not allowed to think in the play box. And that play box is supposed to be something that when you get done with it, you have to accept whatever happened because you thought about it and then you went and did what you practiced. And when you walk back out of that, you can't go back and think again. You have to walk forward. So every think box starts you from attitude of, what would I have to do to hit a good shot here, a safe shot that would give me something? So that's always gearing you up to a positive thing. And you're not carrying back, I can't believe I hit the last par 5 and 2 and 4 putted for bogey. This is ridiculous. That has to be, I know it's so hard to do and so hard to say. And I think Martin Hall said something on one of his shows that I caught recently. And he said, developing the right attitude or developing a positive attitude or developing a good strategy or a scheme when you play is a skill that has to be practiced and it has to be learned the same way you would learn how to hit a bunker shot or a fairway bunker shot or how to hit a ball out of a divot. If you just walk out and go, I'm going to do my best and be happy, you're going to struggle. You have to train that on the range. You have to get in your think box. You play an imaginary hole in the range, and then you train it on the course. But it's a skill that has to be learned. And that is it. Roger Federer had this great thing that came across. He was giving a commencement speech. And he said, at one point, I'm for some reason regarded as one of the greatest tennis players in the history of the game. And in reality, I failed on 46% of my matches and my literally games within a set. 46% of the time I failed. All I really did was succeed about 51% of the time. And I'm the greatest. That's hard to imagine. So golf has a lot of catastrophe built into it. If you can understand that and go, all you got to do is be just a tiny bit greater than what's obviously going to happen. You don't have to be perfect all day long.
Oh, well said. Coach Mull, how would you add to that?
Yeah. So I kind of two different things I want to say to that. I love P&L Be a Player is I think their recent book that, I have behind you. I do actually have a bunch of golf psychology books, and I even listen to a lot of just non-sport psychologists. Just how do I help each player in front of me? But it comes down to, Joe, when you said accept it and move on, the play box move forward. I really like the saying, like, be where your feet are, right? And so, like, where am I right now? Where are my feet? They're not at the last shot that I just hit. They can't. They're here. They're not also, okay, I can try to save birdie. They're right here in this moment, right? And so be where your feet are is an easy way to maybe say it to a junior. I wrote
it down. It couldn't be said better.
I love, so like I played in a event on Monday, and I mean, it was prairie dunes. Like I got it. It's a fantastic golf course. Winds were howling, greens were double rolled. And I hit it in the gun, couldn't find it, and tripled the hole. But I was so proud of myself because I parred the next one. And then later in the day, it was a 36-hole tournament. I had another double, and I either parred or birdied the next 2 holes. So I didn't, in the past, it was like, okay, like, oh my God, so what do I got to do to come back from that? What do I got to do going forward? Like, no, like, where are my feet right now? They're on this tee box. And I'm going to go through that. And that's why I'm really huge on the pre-shot routine. Like, literally, I am a crazy coach when it comes to that. I'm like, nope, you didn't do the 2 taps. You normally tap your thumb twice before you pull it. You didn't do that. That's why we didn't hit that one well. So if I grew up playing basketball and soccer and taking penalty kicks or free throws, I can still, at 37, go up to a free throw line and know exactly what my free throw routine was, right? Or a pitch or a tennis serve. And so all these juniors are hopefully playing other sports. Why would getting into a golf ball be any different? It has to be a very nuanced, like, pre-shot routine that is practiced, because now when we walk to the ball, it is going to be the same, probably to the second. It should be a little fidgety. Very, very rarely do you see a great player get to the ball and freeze and not look at the target or just be ball bound. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. They're like moving, like I move my feet twice, and then I pick the club up and I move it to check, kind of like the Nelly Corda. Then I look at my target, exhale, push tension to my feet, put the club on the ground, pull the trigger. And I have to like work through that. And like every player is a little different, but a pre-shot routine is helping get out of the like thinking and, oh my gosh, I just want to hit it to the center of the green. I just don't want to hit it in the water. No. At this point, to just point and Peeling, we're not thinking about that anymore. We're just executing our process to help us be successful. But to talk about attitude, I think with the Olympics going on right now, I would be remiss if I didn't say, and I'm sure we've all seen it, the sign that they had all players hold up, like their goal. They're like, what's their favorite thing about being over there? There are 4 different questions. And every player put gold, win medal for my country, except for one. And Scotty Scheffler, on his goal for the Paris Olympics, was to have fun. And who won? Scotty Scheffler, right? So it goes back to like, what is our purpose out here? And golf will beat you down. It will just destroy you. And so we always got to remember, and there are times where you're not going to be having fun out there. So that's where I'm going to flip to great players, good competitive athletes. They have a lot of grit. So they're going to keep grinding. They have grit. On the days when their head is beaten, they're going to get up the next day and they're going to go try it again. They give themselves a lot of grace. Okay. Because again, I'm probably going to have a blow up hole, right? I've played 14 times this year, right? I'm probably going to have a blow up hole, but I'm going to give myself grace because I set the expectation. Coach, like, you haven't been playing very much this year. You're going to go teed up. So I'm setting the expectation. You're probably going to have a blow up hole, maybe on one of the 9, front or back, maybe both today. But then when it happens, my reality is I planned for that, right? So I'm not disappointed. So expectations and reality, if that reality matches our expectation, we don't have all this disappointment on the golf course. And then, so grit, grace, and then gratitude. And this year, so I always put a new word on my ball every year. And it was crazy when Joe and I met. I learned Joe did the same thing because we give golf balls out from Tyler. Like, we get golf balls every year. And he does the same thing. And so last year I put commit on the golf ball, so on mine, but then that I give to my students. The year before that I put go be good. Just when you're looking at just go do this, go be good. And this year I put grateful. And so when I look at my ball, I am grateful that I am outside, that I am doing this awesome thing. And so if juniors can keep that, be patient with themselves, have a lot of grit, have a lot of grace with themselves, and a lot of gratitude, I think that that's probably a differentiator than others and as far as their success.
Love it.
What she said.
Yeah, right. Drop the mic.
You got to see your word. What's your word?
No, mine is on the side of the golf ball. I have smile.
Smile.
And
Yep.
I give that to the kids. And
Yep.
here's a little something for the parents listening. If you ever want to have fun with your friends or even your junior, put their name and their telephone number on it and say, if found, please call. And you will realize people hit the ball a lot straighter than nailing it into somebody's yard trying to cut a corner on a par 4.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's funny.
On the advice to parents, maybe we'll end here. I'll throw this question to both of you guys, but Joe, maybe you can start. What would be your biggest advice to parents who have a child that's interested in golf, who's coming up the ranks in junior golf? They want to do the best by their child and give them the best chance to succeed. What advice would you give to that parent?
Motivation is a big key. Because there will be some days that your junior boy or your junior girl doesn't want to play. I was out watching one of my juniors yesterday, and she has a round today, and even her mom said, we'll chalk that up to her being tired. She's played 19 days in a row right now. And, that's every kid takes off in the summer, and it's like summer goes like that because they're playing week after week. But motivation is a big thing, and the motivation comes in the form of questions. It isn't like, come on, if you're going to be the best, you've got to go hit 2 hours worth of putts. It's like, what do you think, if you were going to go practice today, what do you think you would work on with your game? What part do you feel? And being involved, I try and involve the parent as my second set of eyes. And anytime I teach a junior, I always have the parent back there, and I'll talk to the kid and I'll say something. I go, all right, what parts do you, well, I really want to work on this. And I'll look and I go, now, when I look at the truth bank over here, is he going to say the same thing or is he going to say something different? And you watch the kid go, he's going to say something different. He's going to tell you I need to get out of the bunker. And at some point I'll go, then why don't we work on both? But when that particular junior leaves, my goal as an instructor is to kind of go, will you guys make sure you practice bunkers and your scoring irons? And here's John's drill for his scoring irons. And then do me a favor and just kind of keep me updated. If you're struggling at it, let me know, because maybe we'll come by with a different game. But you can really benefit by kind of going, hey, if we were going to go practice today, what should we practice? And then when you do that, you kind of look and go, you're getting better at that. You think maybe you give those par fives a go now, because the worst you'll do is be in the bunker. And I've seen throughout the years that seems to be the best, and that supportive pushing. And I don't know how to word that properly, but it's kind of a supportive. And at some point, and I'm being very serious about this, and Maureen, especially with TPI, as in a younger age, don't pigeonhole your junior into golf. Let them play every sport they can. And if they want to learn how to hit a softball, teach them how to hit it left-handed and right-handed. The more you can have all parts of your body working to perform some athletic movement, the better golfer you're going to become. And that's
I didn't
huge.
even start playing golf until high school. Like so to that point, like please stay multi-sport and have your kids not doing that for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Coach Mo, do you have any other advice to parents?
For parents, yeah. So I think your kid, right? And every kid is going to be coached and parented differently. There are times that, a quick story, I was walking off of 9 to go to the next, it was districts in junior year. And I had this like world defeatist attitude. I played terrible and, head down slumping. And my coach was coming over to talk to me in between as I was going to 10 and stuff. Okay. And I guess my dad, stopped him and he goes, cause that's when parents could stop this. I got this. And he comes over and cuts my coach off. And my dad coached me my entire life in basketball, right? And he knows me very well. And he just ripped me, like just yelled at me, like, get your head out of your, you know what? Like, what is this? Be an athlete. You're better than this. I don't want to see that body language. Go do this, right? And my coach was like, this is not basketball. You cannot talk to them. This is golf. Like, what are you doing? And I went and shot the best 9 of my career. Right. And so because my dad knew in that moment what I needed from him. And there are going to be times where you got to push a little, that motivational push. And you got to say, hey, wait, we're a team in this. Remember, we signed up for this together, that we were going to do this and we were going to take lessons and we were going to spend some money. And we were going to do the tournaments. And we as a team and as a family decided this. So part of the motivation is you're not doing this or to just ask the question why, but then also like, okay, but we made this commitment together. I need you to hold up your end of the bargain, right? And involve it as like, this is a team effort. And have your kid know that you always love them. Like my 5-year-old be like, when I would get angry, he goes, Mom, you said though, even if you're angry at me, you always love me. Right. And he does know that. And he knows that like, regardless of what happens, Mama's going to love him. And I'm going to still, I think part of my job as a parent is to provide kids opportunities. So I'm going to do everything I can to provide my child the best opportunities to set them up for success, to know that they're always going to be loved and to have it be a team approach, to the whole thing. Right. I think that's really important.
Coach Mo, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, to follow you, to kind of, just get into your orbit a little bit, what's the best way for a parent or a junior to kind of reach out or
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So very simple. I've gone by Mo my whole life, M-O. So that's my nickname, and I'm now known as Coach Mo. I don't think some people know Maureen is my full name. They know me as Coach or Mo or Coach Mo. So Coach Mo, M-O Golf, is my handle. So Instagram or Facebook. I think it's YouTube. I don't know. I'm still working on a couple of the others. So Coach Mo Golf, and then it's also coachmogolf@gmail.com is my email. So it's very simple. If you were to just Google that and or maybe Coach Mo Golf in Kansas City, you're going to find all the ways to get a hold of me.
Love it. And Smiling Joe Hallett. If anybody's just listening to this, Joe's been smiling the entire hour-long podcast. What is the best way for people to reach you?
Ryan, I tell him to reach Coach Mo first, probably.
You're so sweet.
He's over there being sheepish because she's going, he is so socially media inept. It's not even funny. But I do have a website, joehallettgolf.com. And that is also, I believe it's X now. It's not Twitter. And I believe that's @Joe Hallett Golf. And my email of all crazy things is the PGA guy @pga.com. So 26 years ago, it was like, oh, you can get your own email. And I thought, well, I'll type this in. Certainly somebody has that. And then I thought, I'm not dealing with the biggest group of creative people. I just got the PGA guy @pga.com. But the most important thing is please let your viewers and listeners, we're a resource to help your juniors. And, send us an email or log on if you want to learn anything else. The joy of what we get to do is push the game forward and watch the young men and young ladies kind of do things that we couldn't do when we were their age.
Awesome. Joe, Maureen, thank you so much. This was fun. It was fun to have both you guys on. We'll have to do it again. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ryan, so much.
Ryan, thanks.